Hello, today's video shows the progress with my espalier. In my previous house I espaliered pears and nashi pears and I struggled to control the codling moth. So in this new home I've decided to espalier anything except for pome fruit, and I've chosen to espalier persimmons, peach and figs. I didn't want to concrete any poles into the ground, so Nick hammered in a 2.4 metre star picket into the ground for me and helped me attach the turnbuckles and the wire. Nick's good, everyone needs a Nick to help them in the garden. We followed the advice from the Millennial Gardener when we made the espalier frame, so I'll put a link to his video below. We've put some Rio mesh in front of the espalier wire as a temporary measure to stop Frank from running into the wire and hurting himself. And there's Frank there, attending to some grooming. This is the same espalier hedge, but just showing from the opposite side of it, showing clearly the Rio mesh that's protecting the wires. Can't quite see the wires though. There's a potted fig that is not included in the espalier hedge. That was a gift from Fiona. This was taken on the day that I decided to espalier the persimmons and the peach. I had waited for as long as possible before espaliering the horizontal tier because I wanted these branches to grow as long as possible, and leaving them growing vertically meant that the apical dominance would continue to let those limbs grow. With the peach tree being a fast grower, these limbs were now long enough to complete the first tier in this first season. So the branches were starting to harden by early April, which is why I had to espalier them now before they were too brittle to bend sideways. I got a lightweight stick and tied them to both of the branches that were about to go horizontal. I tied them with old stockings just cut into strips so that it was gentle on the branches and didn't cause any damage to the wood or the cambium layer. And then the aim was for me to tie the stick to the espalier wire rather than tying the peach limb itself. I used Velcro to tie the stick to the espalier wire, but I didn't tie it very tightly in the first instance because I wanted the branch to slowly settle down into its desired position. After a couple of days, when it had settled down, I tied the stick a lot tighter to the espalier so that it would be in its permanent position. The Ichikiki Gyro persimmon didn't put on much growth. The branches were a lot more brittle than the peach tree. I didn't attach it to any lightweight rod because I didn't think there'd be much benefit to it. I just used the stocking to tie it directly to the wire quite loosely, and it seemed quite comfortable in that position. I didn't even need to tie the second side of the tier. This will take at least another year to grow tier 1 before I even think about going up to another tier. It's a fairly slow growing, and this in particular is not a very vigorous plant. A couple of days after espaliering it, I did prune off any of the excess vertical growth. And this is the Fuyu persimmon. It had put on a bit more growth than the Ichikiki Gyro one had. Again though, I didn't feel to put a lightweight rod into the espalier. I just tied it with the stockingette directly onto the espalier wire. And with this one too, after a couple of days of letting it settle, I came and pruned any of the vertical growth that was excess to try and curb that apical dominance. The Fuyu will also take at least one more year of this first tier growing before I go to any second tier. I was a little bit concerned about sun damage to these espaliers, so a few days after tying the espaliers down, I whitewashed them with builder's lime, water and a bit of boiled linseed oil. I didn't espalier the figs on the same day as I did these 3 trees because the branches didn't feel mature enough, so I thought I'd let them harden a little bit. A couple of weeks later I did espalier the white Adriatic, but as of today, the 27th of January, I still haven't espaliered the black Genoa fig because the limbs don't feel mature enough. So here is how they're looking. The peach tree has grown so much in that couple of weeks I'll probably have to prune it again before the end of summer. This is the white Adriatic. I'll probably prune the vertical growth in winter so that it can form its second tier. The next was the black Genoa fig that I'll espalier in the next week or so. And here's the espalier hedge from the other angle, just to give you another look at all of them. And I didn't mention the final fig in the hedge there. It's a dwarf brown and it won't be espaliered. I'm just going to prune that into a vase shape. Thank you for watching and joining me in my journey.